Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cooking with Cannabis. I'm your host, Dr. Tim. This episode I want to go over is how to make hash oil. And we're going to do it because we've got a lot of product left over from our crop this year. You may have seen some of our other videos that we talked about our crop and what we achieved. We got tired of trimming, so we've got a lot. We're going to make some hash oil out of what we got left over. The recipe I found online calls for 1 ounce, but we've got a little bit extra, so we're going to double it and make 2 ounces added to this. It also calls for isopropyl alcohol. Isopropyl, there we go. Alcohol, which is 99.9%. The only place I've been able to find that you can get it is on Amazon.com. What we're going to do in this process is we're going to take those 2 ounces that we've got that are nice buds from our farm. And what we're going to do is we're going to soak those in the alcohol, and we're going to break down that weed, squish it, break it all down, chop it all up. We're going to let it soak for about an hour so we know that all those cannabinoids have been stripped right off of that alcohol. And then we'll run it through a cheesecloth or a muslin bag if that's what you have, but you want to try to get out as much of that product as you can and filter it out. We're going to filter it, pour it into this Pyrex dish where we've set up a double boiler here where we'll try to boil off of that alcohol down at least 80%, and then we'll filter it out one more time and put it into a smaller Pyrex dish, and then we will go directly onto the heat where we can boil it all down and get it down to where it's dark, where it starts to smoke. Then we know that we've burned off all that alcohol. And we have a 10 milligram syringe. We should be able to get about 5 to 6 milligrams of hash oil out of this, and we'll be good from there. We can use these for edibles, or when it dries down, it actually dries sticky. It's almost like a shatter. It can be used directly into dabbing. So that's what you need for the product, and we'll get started. Hey, good afternoon. Dr. Tim here.
Mr. Green Jeans.
Previously, we took you for a little trip at our farm up in Vermont, and now we've taken the harvest and letting it dry out and trimming the buds. A little sample that you can see right here. We've got some buds that are already trimmed out. But we just wanted you to know that everything's organic, no chemicals we used in the process, and this should be a pretty good crop for cooking. Green Jeans over here.
It's a really good sativa, believe me, and it's enjoyable. It's got a piney taste to it. It's excellent. But that's all I know.
Yeah. So we'll dry it out, trim it, clip it, bag it, weigh it, and we'll get back to you. Take care. Okay, we're going to start making the hash oil. Today I've got a guest with me.
Mr. Green Jeans.
There we go. He was helped farm our crop this year, and he's going to help me in the process of making this hash oil. So our first step is to take the weed and crunch it up as best we can. We got some rubber gloves on, so Mr. Green things, if you don't mind, crunching up as much as you can. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour some of the alcohol in on top of this, but we're going to leave out probably about that much of the alcohol in there. We'll use that as a rinse. Make sure we get everything. But what we're going to do is just trying to break it down the best we can before we try to saturate it and soak it as much. But once you get it set the way you want it, then we'll pour it in, and we'll go from there. Go for it. Ready? There we go.
Smells good.
Good. Now this alcohol here, I recommend you doing it outside. It's 99.9%, very flammable. So we want to make sure we're careful of what we're doing, especially us, huh? So just save a little bit. There you go. Okay, that'll work. We'll use that to rinse. Yeah. All right. Squish that all in there. Make sure that's all in. Ooh, smell that alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we'll give you a quick little close-up of that. Show you what that. And all we're doing is that just soaking that, saturating. The alcohol actually strips the cannabinoids right off of the plant. So we're just going to let it sit in there for maybe an hour and just let it soak. Try to strip as much as we can, and then we'll filter it out with a filter. All right, so we'll be right back. Okay, now we've let the cannabis soak in the alcohol for well over an hour, so it's definitely been stripped. So now we are going to put some cheesecloth over a metal strainer over our Pyrex, and we're now going to filter out the cannabis. All right, and carefully pour it in there. Now there may be a little bit more touching that, Jim, so be careful. All right, and you can see that it is already nice and dark. All right, so we're going to go ahead and strain this out, and we'll get right back to you, and then we'll start double boiling it. Okay, we filtered it all out, and this is what we've come up with. It's nice and clean. We've run it through the filter twice. And what we're going to do now is I've got my burner set at 220 degrees, and it's on a double boiler. Set that right in there. And we're going to watch the temperature in our oil, because I don't want to exceed 220 degrees, but I want to keep it around 180 degrees. So we'll monitor it here. And if I have to bring this up a little bit, I will, but we're going to get the water to a boil and start burning off all that alcohol until it comes down about 80%. And then we'll reduce it down, and we'll put it in a smaller cup, and then we'll put this directly on the heat and burn the alcohol off from there. Now we've got quite a bit in here. It's a very slow process, so over the next 4 to 5 hours we'll slowly get that down. As it gets down there, we'll give you an update as we get going. Okay, we're halfway through the evaporation process, and you can see still got a ways to go, but we started out at 900 milliliters. We're down now to about 400, so we still got a couple more to go, and it's been about 2 hours right now. Okay, now as you can see, we're getting down to the very nitty gritty, down to the very end. Alright, a little bit more to start burning off though, but I'm very close to the end. Okay, as you can see, we're getting down to the bottom real good now. And the last of the bubbles you're seeing is the last of the alcohol and water being burnt off, so that all is left is that hash oil. It'll be hot, so it'll be loose, and as it cools down, it'll thicken up. And we're almost ready to start extracting it out with a syringe. Alrighty, we are now at the end of our process, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, that is nothing but the hash oil that's left. All of the alcohol has been burnt off. Let's turn this thing off. That'll cool for a little bit. And let's set that over that way. And what we're going to do now is we're going to extract the oils out from the syringe. And it was a double batch because we used 2 ounces of weed. Alright. So, if I can get my assistant to help me there. Alright. What we're going to do is we're going to utilize this afterwards when we're all done and make some couple of gummies out of it. I think we're going to get a lot of hash oil out of this.
Is that syringe big enough?
Oh yeah. Oh, she's really coming up here.
That's what I said.
Hold on. There we go. I'll let that harden for a minute. Keep scrubbing that down. Now I've got some wax paper here. Thought we'd try some, just try to get it to harden a little bit too. Putting some down. See if that hardens up like shatter. But again, it's really hot coming off, so we got to let it cool down a little bit. All right, so let's let that cool down. We'll be right back. Okay, so here we have our final product. It's about 10 milliliters of hash oil. That was with a double batch, 2 ounces. We're just going to let that harden a little bit longer. See if we can't get that to come out hard. I still have a little bit left in my Pyrex dish right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make some gummies out of what we got here. Alright, that's thickening up pretty good. Alright. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode on how to make the hash oil. Now again, it came from our crop up in Vermont. We were able to process as much of it as we could. And the leftovers, we were able to get that down and make some good hash oil. We were able to make some gummies out of it. Now you can see that some of these gummies have a little bit of dark spots on them, and that's the hash oil themselves. Oil and water doesn't mix it too well. There's a lot of separation, so try to get to work it a little bit better. Use a little bit more gelatin, and you get it down there. But powerful, powerful gummies. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time on Cooking with Cannabis. Bon appetit.